What's up, YouTube? We back with another review. Today we're going to be reviewing Frieren A Journeys End, episode 3. Let's get it. And so as we get into the new episode, Frieren and Frieren continue their journey, and they end up in a trading city. And as they're walking around, Frieren says, hey, we should split up and go find the necessities we'll need to continue to travel. Frieren is a little thrown off. She says, wait, but you've already tasked me with getting the important stuff. What are you going to do? Frieren awkwardly says, I'm going to go get some herbs and things. As they split up, Frieren is skeptical. She says, wait a minute. I know her face. I think she's hiding something. Soon after, Frieren would secretly follow Frieren, and as Frieren makes a stop at a small accessory shop, Frieren is surprised. She's like, wait, what? She's into fashion now? Soon the camera pans into Frieren. She's nervous. She's shook up. Frieren then says, what is she so troubled about? I've never seen her like this. And as the anime pans to Frieren, she finally picks an accessory she likes. And as Frieren continues to go undercover secretly, she says, wait, an accessory wouldn't hurt. At least she's not buying weird things again. She then says to herself, maybe I should just continue my shopping. Maybe I should stop following her. But this wouldn't last for too long because she would overhear Frieren asking a local, where can I find the best desserts in town? Frieren would get mad and say, wait, that's not fair. And she expresses she haven't had sweets in months. Continuing along, after Frieren gets the information from a local, she would find herself in an underground tavern, and some thugs would be in there. But Frieren desperately wants these sweets, and so she asks the thugs, where can I find the best dessert place? And as Frieren secretly watching this whole conversation, she says, oh nah, this is bad, this is a bad idea. But she would actually be wrong, because they would actually give her good advice. Shortly afterwards, Frieren would thank the men, and she would continue her journey. Frieren continues to watch her and sees where she's going. And after mistakenly thinking she's going to the sweet shop, Frieren would do a 180 and head back towards the inn that they're staying at. Suddenly, Frieren is flustered. She says to herself, man, I've been following Frieren all day. I forgot to do my shopping. And as we fast forward a little bit, we would go to the next scene. Frieren would be waiting for Frieren at the inn. And after some last minute shopping, Frieren will return. Frieren would be like, man, you late. She would apologize. Then suddenly, Frieren asks Frieren, she says, hey, should we go get some sweets? And as we move to the next scene, we would finally find out why Frieren was looking for accessories and sweets. It all was for Frieren. She was buying Frieren an accessory as a gift and treated her to some sweets on top of a rooftop while the sun set. And while they're bonding, Frieren has a flashback. She thinks about the time she shared with her comrades. The anime showcases that even though they've traveled for a long time, she still didn't know anything about them. And I believe this scene highlights her getting better at this. She actually's trying to get to know Frieren. And after the beautiful scene, they will leave the village they're in. And as they're leaving, Frieren is looking at the statue of Himmel. Frieren then asks, Frieren, does our next journey have a purpose? She says, not really, I'm just looking to collect spells. But surprisingly, she also says, but when I can, I would like to remember the good times I had with my comrades. I believe this scene shows growth in her. She's starting to appreciate the time she's sharing with others. And as we move forward, Frieren would teach Frieren defensive magic, and she would help her get stronger. And she wouldn't stop there. She would drill it into Frieren's head that being good at defensive magic will eventually keep her alive. She would also chastise her about studying her magical book. And as they continue their journey, they'll arrive at the village that they were looking for. And as they arrive, a local already knows Frieren and what she's here for. She tells him, wait, I haven't told anybody I was going to do this. How do you know? He would then tell her Himmel the hero had visited this area for 30 years. And Himmel had told him that Frieren would be back to take care of Qual the demon. And this Qual was a demon that destroyed their village. But Himmel, Frieren, and the rest of her comrades sealed him off. And as we continue to learn the lore about him, we will learn that his seal that he's had on him is starting to break off. And Frieren's task is to defeat him. And as we lead up to her battling Qual, Frieren would give Frieren the lore on when they battled him and sealed him off. She would then tell Frieren about a specific spell that he used called Zotrak. This powerful spell would be the first to destroy defensive magic and the armor around it. And the spell being so powerful, it killed many people. And after Frieren tells Frieren the rest of the lore on Qual, the anime then skips ahead to the next morning. Frieren would unseal Qual, and the battle to defeat him would start. Qual will let off his Zotrak, his powerful spell magic, but Frieren's defensive magic blocks it. Qual is surprised. Frieren then tells him, your spell's ancient. We already know how to defeat it. After she would give him an ultimatum and say, if you give up, I'll make your death painless. And of course, Qual, being the demon he is, he doesn't accept it. And instead, he actually exploits the weakness in the defensive magic. And so as he lets off a barrage of attacks, due to Frierin's practice, she's ready for it all. She counters and defends everything that he lets off. And while Qual is focused on her, Frieren flies into the air. And insanely, she lets off a spell, but it's not any spell. She uses the exact same spell as Qual, the Zotrak, and in dramatic fashion, she would defeat him. And after getting thanks from the villagers, the anime would end with Frieren thinking about him as the hero. She says he's the real hero.